image icon. A geopolitical example of nuclear strike plan of ROK Army in Kim Ministry. Effective radius, 10 km, pop, 1.06 million. Another potential geopolitical issue that is considered particularly worrisome by military analysts is a possible conflict between the United States and the People's Republic of China over Taiwan. Although economic forces are thought to have reduced the possibility of a military conflict, there remains concern about the increasing military buildup of China. China is rapidly increasing its naval capacity, and that any move toward Taiwan independence could potentially spin out of control. Large stockpile with global range, dark blue. Smaller stockpile with global range, medium blue. Small stockpile with regional range, light blue. Israel is thought to possess somewhere between 100 and 400 nuclear warheads. It has been asserted that the Dolphin-class submarines which Israel received from Germany have been adapted to carry nuclear-armed Pope cruise missiles, so as to give Israel a second strike capability. 93. Israel has been involved in wars with its neighbors in the Middle East, and with other non-state actors in Lebanon and Palestine, on numerous prior occasions, and its small geographic size and population could mean that in the event of future wars, the Israel Defense Forces might have very little time to react to an invasion or other major threat. Such a situation could escalate to nuclear warfare very quickly in some scenarios. On the 7th of March, 2013, North Korea threatened the United States with a preemptive nuclear strike. 94. On April 9, North Korea urged foreigners to leave South Korea, stating that both countries were on the verge of nuclear war. 95. On the 12th of April, North Korea stated that a nuclear war was unavoidable. The country declared Japan as its first target. 96. In 2014, when Russia-United States and Russia-NATO relations worsened over the Russo-Ukrainian war, the Russian state-owned television channel Russia One stated that Russia is the only country in the world that is really capable of turning the USA into radioactive ash. 97. U.S. Secretary of Defense Ash Carter considered proposing deployment of ground-launched cruise missiles in Europe that could preemptively destroy Russian weapons. 98. In August 2017, North Korea warned that it might launch mid-range ballistic missiles into waters within 18 to 24 miles, 29 to 39 kilometers, of Guam, following an exchange of threats between the governments of North Korea and the United States. 99. 100. Escalating tensions between North Korea and the United States, including threats by both countries that they could use nuclear weapons against one another, prompted a heightened state of readiness in Hawaii. The perceived ballistic missile threat broadcast all over Hawaii on 13 January 2018 was a false missile alarm. 101. 102. In October 2018, the former Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev commented that U.S. withdrawal from the Intermediate-Range Nuclear Forces Treaty is not the work of a great mind and that a new arms race has been announced. 103. 104. In early 2019, more than 90% of world's 13,865 nuclear weapons were owned by Russia and the United States. 105. 106. In 2019, Vladimir Putin warned that Russia would deploy nuclear missiles in Europe if the United States deployed intermediate-range nuclear missiles there. Journalist Dmitry Kozlov listed the targets in the United States, which includes the Pentagon, Camp David, Fort Ritchie, McClellan Air Force Base, and Jim Creek Naval Radio Station. Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov denies the existence of the target list. 107. 108. on the 24th of February, 2022, in a televised address preceding the start of Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine, Russian President Vladimir Putin stated that Russia is today one of the most powerful nuclear powers in the world. No one should have any doubts that a direct attack on our country will lead to defeat and dire consequences for any potential aggressor. Later in the same speech, Putin stated, "Now a few important, very important words for those who may be tempted to intervene in ongoing events. Whoever tries to hinder us, and even more so to create threats for our country, for our people, should know that Russia's response will be immediate and will lead you to such consequences that you have never experienced in our history." 109. 110, on the 27th of February, 2022, Putin publicly put his nuclear forces on alert, stating that NATO powers had made aggressive statements. 111, on the 14th of April, the New York Times reported comments by CIA Director William Burns, who said potential desperation could lead President Putin to order the use of tactical nuclear weapons. 112, on the 21st of September, 2022, days before declaring the annexation of additional parts of Ukraine, Putin claimed in a national television address that high NATO officials had made statements about the possibility of using nuclear weapons of mass destruction against Russia, and stated if the territorial integrity of our country is threatened, we will certainly use all the means at our disposal to protect Russia and our people. It's not a bluff. NBC News characterized Putin's statements as a thinly veiled threat that Putin was willing to risk nuclear conflict if necessary to win the war with Ukraine. 113, Hans M. Christensen, director of the Nuclear Information Project at the Federation of American Scientists, stated that if you start detonating nuclear weapons in the battlefield, you potentialize a radioactive fallout that you can't control. It could rain over your own troops as well, so it might not be an advantage to do that in the field. 114, according to a peer-reviewed study published in the journal Nature Food in August 2022, 115, a full-scale nuclear war between the US and Russia would kill 360 million people directly, with a further 5 billion people dying from starvation. More than 2 billion people would die from a smaller-scale nuclear war between India and Pakistan. 116, 117, substrategic use. The above examples envisage nuclear warfare at a strategic level, i.e., total war. However, nuclear power shares the ability to undertake more limited engagements. Substrategic use includes the use of either low-yield tactical nuclear weapons, or of variable-yield strategic nuclear weapons in a very limited role, as compared to battlefield exchanges of larger-yield strategic nuclear weapons. This was described by the UK Parliamentary Defence Select Committee as the launch of one or a limited number of missiles against an adversary as a means of conveying a political message, warning or demonstration of resolve. 118. It is believed that all current nuclear weapons states possess tactical nuclear weapons, with the exception of the United Kingdom, which decommissioned its tactical warheads in 1998. However, the UK does possess scalable yield strategic warheads, and this technology tends to blur the difference between strategic, substrategic, and tactical use or weapons. American, French and British nuclear submarines are believed to carry at least some missiles with dial-A-yield warheads for this purpose, potentially allowing a strike as low as 1 kiloton, or less, against a single target. Only the People's Republic of China and the Republic of India have declarative, unqualified, unconditional no first-use nuclear weapons policies. India and Pakistan maintain only a credible minimum deterrence. Commodore Tim Hare, former Director of Nuclear Policy at the British Ministry of Defence, has described sub-strategic use as offering the government an extra option in the escalatory process before it goes for an all-out strategic strike which would deliver unacceptable damage. 119. However, this sub-strategic capacity has been criticized as potentially increasing the acceptability of using nuclear weapons. Combined with the trend in the reduction in the worldwide nuclear arsenal as of 2007 is the warhead miniaturization and modernization of the remaining strategic weapons that is presently occurring in all the declared nuclear weapon states, into more usable configurations. The Stockholm International Peace Research Institute suggests that this is creating a culture where use of these weapons is more acceptable and therefore is increasing the risk of war, as these modern weapons do not possess the same psychological deterrent value as the large Cold War era multimegaton warheads. 120. In many ways, this present change in the balance of terror can be seen as the complete embracement of switch from the 1950s Eisenhower doctrine of massive retaliation, 121, to one of flexible response which has been growing in importance in the U.S. nuclear war fighting plan / every decade since. For example, the United States adopted a policy in 1996 of allowing the targeting of its nuclear weapons at non-state actors, terrorists, armed with weapons of mass destruction. 122. Another dimension to the tactical use of nuclear weapons is that of such weapons deployed at sea for use against surface and submarine vessels. Until 1992, vessels of the United States Navy, and their aircraft, deployed various such weapons as bombs, rockets, guided and unguided, torpedoes, and depth charges. Such tactical naval nuclear weapons were considered more acceptable to use early in a conflict because there would be few civilian casualties. It was feared by many planners that such use would probably quickly have escalated into a large-scale nuclear war. 123. This situation was particularly exacerbated by the fact that such weapons at sea were not constrained by the safeguards provided by the permissive action link attached to U.S. Air Force and Army nuclear weapons. It is unknown if the navies of the other nuclear powers yet today deploy tactical nuclear weapons at sea. The 2018 U.S. Nuclear Posture Review emphasized the need for the U.S. to have sub-strategic nuclear weapons as additional layers for its nuclear deterrence. 124. Nuclear terrorism. Nuclear terrorism by non-state organizations or actors, even individuals, is a largely unknown and understudied factor in nuclear deterrence thinking, as states possessing nuclear weapons are susceptible to retaliation in kind, while sub- or trans-state actors may be less so. The collapse of the Soviet Union has given rise to the possibility that former Soviet nuclear weapons might become available on the black market, so-called loose nukes. A number of other concerns have been expressed about the security of nuclear weapons in newer nuclear powers with relatively less stable governments, such as Pakistan, but in each case, the fears have been addressed to some extent by statements and evidence provided by those nations, as well as cooperative programs between nations. Worry remains, however, in many circles that a relative decrease in the security of nuclear weapons has emerged in recent years, and that terrorists or others may attempt to exert control over, or use, nuclear weapons, militarily applicable technology, or nuclear materials and fuel. Another possible nuclear terrorism threat are devices designed to disperse radioactive materials over a large area using conventional explosives, called dirty bombs. The detonation of a dirty bomb would not cause a nuclear explosion, nor would it release enough radiation to kill or injure a large number of people. However, it could cause severe disruption and require potentially very costly decontamination procedures and increased spending on security measures. 125. Radioactive materials can also be used for targeted assassinations. For example, the poisoning of Alexander Litvinenko was described by medical professionals as an ominous landmark, the beginning of an era of nuclear terrorism. 126, 127, 128, 129, survival. The predictions of the effects of a major counter-value nuclear exchange include millions of city-dweller deaths within a short period of time. Some 1980s predictions had gone further and argued that a full-scale nuclear war could eventually bring about the extinction of the human race. 7.